speaking? What night are you speaking? Are you speaking tonight? Or one person? No. Hey, you're not. If you took that stage, you would get booed off of it. You would get booed off the stage.
Okay, so what you just watched was Congressman Matt Gaetz, obviously Republican congressman from Florida, essentially crashing an interview that former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, was doing. And as you can hear from the video, he's essentially taunting Matt Gaetz. And first he starts off by asking, are you gonna speak? And he's not slated to speak at the RNC. And then says that McCarthy would get booed off the stage should he have been someone slated to speak today. I don't know how true that is. I do think that there is an interesting division within the Republican Party. There are factions forming, if you will. The economic populists, or at least those purporting to be economic populists, versus like the old guard of conservative traditional Republicans, which I think is representative of what Matt Gaetz is. Now, Matt Gaetz, of course, after he was ousted from the House ousted from his position as Speaker of the House, he then resigned from Congress altogether, so he's no longer an elected official. And since then, he's kind of dedicated his time to attacking Matt Gaetz. He has accused Matt Gaetz of paying to have sex with a 17-year-old. He just says it, like he says it in interviews, Cenk, that I watch time to time. And so that bad blood is still very much there, and it's entertaining to watch. I can say that. Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
Look, I got really mixed feelings on this. So number one, earlier today, I was doing a Piers Morgan interview. Some of you might have seen it, and someone crashed the set again, right? And afterwards, he told me, yeah, but people get famous by crashing your set. Oh, great. That's nuts, right? But he was a rando. Matt Gaetz is a US congressman. That's kind of embarrassing to, like, when you're not being interviewed, to go and try to crash someone else's interview.
Yeah.
You know how aggressive I am, but I would never do that.
I would never do that.
Yeah. It's embarrassing, and it's not the proper time and place. Like, look, I challenge the establishment 24/7, but you've never seen me do anything like that, because we all have to take turns. We all have to let each other speak. We have to have a conversation, right? And so just trying to bust up someone's interview is like a cheap stunt that like a low-level YouTuber would do.
100%. You got to respect the broadcast, because think about all the people working on that show, producing that show. It's a live interview, you know? And so what you went through today with the Piers Morgan show and your interview getting interrupted, like, it's ridiculous and it's clownish behavior. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting to watch is how this conflict between Gaetz and McCarthy keeps going. And to be fair to Gaetz, I guess, McCarthy has pretty much made it his mission to try to destroy Gaetz. Hasn't worked so far, but it is amazing to me how bitter McCarthy still is after being ousted from his position as Speaker of the House.
Yeah, but I get that. I mean, if you were Speaker of the House, it's a giant job, and it only lasted a very short period because of Matt Gaetz. And so, and what I think McCarthy is trying to do is, he's not going above the fray, and he's not going to take, well, he'll take a lobbyist job and all that too, as well, right? But he's basically attaching himself to Matt Gaetz's legs, like Stan Van Gundy, and he's not letting go. And what he's doing is he's dragging down Matt Gaetz, because any consideration of putting him in an important position is gone, because it's going to split the party. And the McCarthy folks are going to be super mad. And if you notice the drama, when Trump came out last night during the convention, he got this huge applause, right? And he was sitting next to Speaker Johnson. And remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene attacked Speaker Johnson. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene had a tiny, tiny speaking role here. First one to speak on Monday, only for 2 minutes, basically in the afternoon when no one is watching.
Right.
So Mike Johnson won that battle. Marjorie Taylor Greene has lost that battle, even within the Trump world. So the more Kevin McCarthy fights with Matt Gaetz, the more both of them are hurt. But since McCarthy's out of power, he doesn't care. So, but Gaetz can't let it go either. And it's personal because of the charges of the 17-year-old, et cetera. Now, look, I think that there's one person who's clearly more right than the other on policy, I'm going to get to that in a second, but did you want to say something?
Well, I wanted to give you a little more information about what happened today, not just during that whole spat that you watched on tape, but also what happened after the fact. So the person who captured that video is with News Nation. His name is Joe Khalil, and he later tweeted the following. Shortly after this moment, we interviewed former Speaker McCarthy, who repeated what we've heard from him before. Gaetz is upset with him because he wouldn't end the ethics investigation into allegations Gaetz paid for sex with a minor. Which, I mean, look, if that is true, if Gaetz was really pestering him to end an ethics investigation into Gaetz, and McCarthy said, no, I'm not gonna do that, and that's the reason why Gaetz retaliated by ousting him as Speaker of the House, Gaetz is definitely in the wrong, obviously, and McCarthy actually did the right thing.
Right, but that's a giant if.
If, exactly.
Because they're both huge liars. So there's no way of knowing, because it's also possible that it's the reverse. That since Gaetz ousted him, McCarthy's like, oh yeah, even though federal prosecutors are dropped looking into the 17-year-old, I'm going to now do an ethics investigation because you annoyed me and you cost me my power. And so that's it, I'm starting an ethics investigation on you. Which, now let's be honest, if that was a corporate Republican that Kevin McCarthy didn't have a beef with, there's no way in the world they would have started an ethics investigation of a guy that the Biden Justice Department said they're not going to bother to prosecute. There's no way that McCarthy would have done that to one of his allies in the Republican Party. So they're both, like, you shouldn't trust either one of them, okay? And I don't know who's telling the truth about the ethics investigation, and and I don't much care, right? So in terms of policy, if we care about that, yeah, so Matt Gaetz is worse on social issues. And so I've got bigger complaints with him about that for sure. But it's not like McCarthy's good on any of those issues. McCarthy's a monster on everything, right? I don't know that Kevin McCarthy is right about a single policy issue, okay? So Matt Gaetz, on the other hand, is now joined the populist wing of the Republican Party, and is right a couple of percentages of the time. So when he says they shouldn't do insider trading anymore, he's correct about that. And he's done some other anti-corruption legislation, which that Ro Khanna has signed on to, AOC has signed on to. So on policy, Matt Gaetz is better than Kevin McCarthy. That doesn't excuse anything he might or might not have done with that girl and trying to fight against the ethics investigation. And no matter how much you may hate Matt Gaetz, trust me that Kevin, you're not gonna agree with a single thing Kevin McCarthy is in favor of. He's a corporatist and a Trump guy whenever it suits him, right? He's the worst of the worst.
So Cenk, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important to have this conversation right now, considering the context. You talk about the differences policy-wise or ideological differences between Matt Gaetz versus Kevin McCarthy, and I see those ideological differences as well. And you provided very specific examples in which Matt Gaetz was willing to work alongside Democrats, even progressives like AOC, to pass policies that you and I certainly favor. And so what do you think is really going on with the Republican Party, right? Because, some portion of the audience will get mad when we talk about how great Sean O'Brien's speech, the keynote speaker at the RNC was last night. Oh, Republicans aren't serious about doing any of the good stuff that we would want. But it does seem like there are at least a handful of some Republican congressmen who are interested in bipartisan legislation, not on right-wing issues that Republicans typically favor, but on issues that we typically favor.
Yeah, no, look, there's no question that the populist wing is more crazy on social issues. But there is also no question that they are way better on corporate issues. And so I don't know that any of them are good on economic issues. But when I say corporate issues, I mean the donors and the corruption and the power that they have. And so that is why corporate media still loves Kevin McCarthy. They think Matt Gaetz was a villain for taking down Kevin McCarthy, and they always like, oh my God, can you believe the Republicans are having trouble because they don't agree? Well, that's not such a bad thing. If the majority of the Republican Party says, yeah, we'd like to be corrupt and keep doing insider trading and keep taking corporate PAC money, and Gaetz and a couple of other guys like like Massey, who I actually respect. And again, I don't agree with him on social issues. I don't agree with him on 1,000 things. But Tom Massey is one of the very, very few guys who has principles in Congress, Republican from Kentucky, okay? And so if those guys are gonna work with us on anti-corruption and anti-war legislation, which Gaetz did that with Ro Khanna as well, right? Even when Trump was in charge, and he said the president has to ask for authorization before going to war. Well, I'm gonna take yes for an answer on those bills. And I want you guys to know some of the reason that these guys get smeared is logical. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gaetz say crazy things, right? But some of the reasons they get smeared is because they're against corporate control. And so some of it is fake, some of it is real, and it gets really complicated. But there is a portion of the populist right wing, certainly among the voters, and among a couple of politicians on a couple of issues where they actually are going in the right direction. And that's when mainstream media hates them the most.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.